1, 2, 3. We want to welcome everybody to Mom Dad Talk Show. Favorite two people are Mom and Dad, and we gonna bypass them today. They'll be all right. They'll be back. Don't worry about it, folks. But I got my favorite cuz, Carlin Alfred. Carlin, what's up, baby?
What's going on, big time?
Yeah. Well, what's going on in the NBA? I mean, we got LeBron James and Stephen A, and then we got Ja Morant. And you really don't know what to say. You know what I'm saying? What are your thoughts? Look, what do you want to start with first, Carlin?
Well, let's talk about Ja Morant a little bit because I mean we'll get to Bron. Like you said, I get at a loss for words with about Ja Morant. So I'm gonna go to I go back and forth on social media with some guys. These are actually people that I know.
Mm-hmm.
So as you know, I had my own semi-pro team for 7-8 years here in Nashville, Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
We were fairly successful. I had what I call fifth and sixth chance guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not second chance guys, fifth and sixth chance guys,
Right.
right? So a lot of these guys were, just life, got into some trouble, were able to get their lives turned around. And one of my favorite guys who got into a lot of trouble prior to getting with us, he was on social media defending Ja Morant because they come from that gangster lifestyle. Like, there's nothing wrong with him, doing. And to be clear for your audience, Ja Morant of the Memphis Grizzlies, who has twice been up on felony charges of gun possession, right? And and endured a suspension by the NBA, right? In recent years, is now doing a celebration where he holds both hands up like he's holding a shotgun after he makes a big shot. He did it twice last week, and the NBA was like, "Okay, we've warned you about that," and they fined him $75,000. All right, so that's the backstory. There are guys who are like, I'm gonna just say it like it is, fake gangsters who try to act like they're about that life to be tough for street cred, and it's just not worth it. There's no ending that ends up good for that. If you actually go to the streets and you live that gun culture, you're going to end up dead. That's just no other ending for you on it, whether it's recent, whether it's soon or whether it's later. If you don't do it and you act like a gangster in the NBA, they've proven that they will come after you. They're going to protect their brand no matter what. And so Ja Morant does not have a good ending predicted either way. You hang with these hood dudes and put it on Instagram Live, they're going to find you. They're going to
test you. They're going to test you.
They're going to test your gangster.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say this now.
I'm going to test your hood card.
I'm going to test your hood card, right?
Right.
Okay. One of the things that people try to do, and on here, Todd, to be fair, you and I, we are not shy about calling out racism when we see it.
Mm-hmm.
To be fair, on the other side, for our credibility, I'm going to call out something when it's not racism.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? The NBA being stringent on Ja Morant is consistent with their message. We don't want to hurt our brand. And our corporate sponsors don't like violence. They don't.
Mm-hmm.
And so I used a series of examples with my argument online to show that the NBA has been consistent. Do you remember Andrei Kirilenko from the Utah Jazz?
Mm-hmm.
He wore the number 47. He's from Russia.
Mm-hmm.
He was dominating the league at one point in time. AK-47. His agent went out and got him a shoe deal and all this other stuff. And David Stern, shortly after that, was like, "Nah, bro, you're not gonna go walk around calling yourself AK-47 and you're from Russia, right?" Mm-hmm. And shortly after that, his career was over.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Then go to J.R. Smith when he was in Denver, the Denver J.R. Smith.
Mm-hmm.
He's throwing up these signs and all this other stuff after he makes threes. And come to find out, he was associated with the Bloods out in L.A.
Mm-hmm.
They the NBA fined him, shut that down. Mm-hmm. Shortly after that, he had a second life in Cleveland with LeBron, but pretty much they almost ended his career.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The Jokic brothers. Remember the beef between the Jokic brothers and the Morris twins?
Oh yeah.
After they got Markieff got into a fight. Well, so did he fight with Nikolai Jokic.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The Jokic brothers aren't even in the NBA, but when they started showing up to the games and they're tatted out in Russian gang tattoos, the NBA stopped showing them on TV. Have you seen them on TV since? No. They don't. They shut that down. They're like, we are not associated with mafia or violence or gangs. And so now you get You get to Gilbert Arenas in 2010. Remember, he had the gun
Yep.
incident with him and Javaris Crittenton?
Yep.
That was 2010. By 2011, Gilbert Arenas was out of the league. We're
Mm-hmm.
talking about the guy that went toe to toe with Kobe,
Yeah.
right? He was calling himself Hibachi because he was cooking Kobe steaks,
Mm-hmm.
right? But the next year he was gone. The NBA does not play about their money. They'll tolerate a whole bunch of stuff. But what they don't tolerate is when their corporate sponsors are queasy about you. And they don't care if you're white, you're Russian, you're black, whatever. If you are a part of a violent or gun culture, they will shut you down. Ja Morant is
Mm-hmm.
on his last leg and he doesn't know it.
Well, and you bring up a great point. I'm just going to take up this other position just so our audience will know. Not that I'm a proponent of gun violence or the NRA but why does the NRA not step in? Because they're supposed to have the Second Amendment right. You know what I'm saying? I mean, guys go hunting on. He's doing a shotgun, Carlin. He's not doing an AK-47 or anything like that. How come they don't step in and try to say, "Hey, wait a second, this is man's rights"? They're all of a sudden quiet around here.
Well, Todd, you're what you're doing is this is a separate subject. You're calling out the hypocritical culture of the NRA.
Yeah,
Period. Right.
right.
And to be clear, I don't even know the guy's name because I can't stand the NRA. But for a period of time, there was a young black man who
Mm-hmm.
was the face of the vice president of NRA or whatever. They
Mm-hmm.
had him on the front of their magazines and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
He left them. He left them because he said somewhere along the lines that the quality or which the very subject you're talking about, you'll step up for a guy who is a mass shooter, right, and defend his
Mm-hmm.
right and say, well, he was wrong for doing that, but he wasn't wrong for having the fully automatic
Mm-hmm.
weapon of mass destruction in public. They'll defend that, but when a black man is trying to defend himself against police who did not identify themselves and break into his house, right, and start shooting at him in his
Mm-hmm.
sleep, the NRA says not a word about that. That's just hypocrisy. And it is a hypocritical culture that goes along with the group that they support. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, and great point. Yeah, I also bring up another point. I think John Morant has probably embraced this. Might not be popular with the Memphis people, but the culture of Memphis. I
Yes.
mean, and
Yeah.
it's like this. I was watching Isaiah Thomas saying, "Wait a second, the Pistons have finally embraced what Piston basketball is to win, and that is the bad boy image: hard defense, play tough, come grind it out. You know what I'm saying? Score. I mean, if you want to shoot threes, go to Boston. I mean, that's what Isaiah said. And every team that wins in Detroit, that's the blueprint. I'm sorry, every decade you got to play tough defense." Take no grit. That's the identity of the city of Detroit. And I just think Ja is trying to bring the identity of Memphis out. Like, this is Memphis, and I'm repping. And there comes a point when keeping it real doesn't make sense. But I mean,
Well,
yeah.
you're right, Todd. There's a brand. There's a brand that works for Ja and his dad. Got those dad in there, T. Morant,
Mm-hmm.
right? When he's from South Carolina.
Yeah.
It's country hood,
Yeah.
right? And from branding purposes, there was not a better fit that we've seen in recent years than for
Especially in
Memphis to
Memphis.
draft. To draft a country hood dude who happened to be a superstar, right?
Mm-hmm.
They showed up. Him and his dad showed up to the NBA draft dressed as Bishop Don Magic Wand and his side pimp. Like, go look up the pictures. I'm talking about. And by the way, for the record, I got no problem with that. I dress like a pimp sometimes myself on Easter, right? I'm full with the hat and the
Beware the Easter
glasses.
suits, everybody. It's about that time.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So they fit Memphis like hand in glove. But there comes a point where art cannot mimic reality, right?
Right.
The whole idea. They even play. I'm not allowed to say this on this show.
Yeah.
But the song from the song from what's the movie with Terrence Howard in? Hustle and Flow. Whoop that.
Yeah, have mercy.
Okay. Yeah, they're literally playing. White folks, black folks, everybody singing it at the games because that's the Memphis. That is the Memphis theme song, and it's like, okay, I get it was in the movie, but y'all are really talking about it in real life. And he has gotten caught up, and I think that in order to save his career, so I'm gonna make this bold statement.
Yeah.
I predict he'll be out of the league within the next 3 years because the NBA is like, it's not worth sacrificing the whole league money wise for one player. So if he does not get traded to a city that has a different persona than that, then I predict he'll be out of the league in 3 years.
I think he should just try to see if he can get a trade to Detroit. At least he can play defense and foul hard.
No.
Skipping on to the next thing, because I don't think the Chicago Bulls will work out for him. As we know what Chicago's all about.
But he needs a place like that that's different than his persona is, right? He needs to go
Carlin, Chicago is a gun violence city. It's just going to get worse.
It is. It is.
That's what I'm saying. It
is. But it's a different type of culture. It's a different type of culture. Anyway.
That's fair.
Anyway.
But, let's get on to our other part of our discussion today. LeBron James and Stephen A. Black on black crime. The things I don't understand about Stephen A. It's like he plays the fence. He works the fence better than any broadcast person I've ever seen. He'll defend us and then he'll slap us in the face. Like, dude, what? I mean, and
facts.
Why are you gonna pick a fight with a dude that's only doing what a father does? And then, to me, he crossed the line, especially when you test a man's manhood. I don't care what color you are. A man's gonna step up and say, "Hey, you know what? Stop it." What are your thoughts on that?
So I think there's plenty of blame to go around here. Okay. I need to set the table a little bit. Whenever me personally, I go back and forth on LeBron.
Mm-hmm.
And by that, I mean, LeBron, by all accounts, is a wonderful human being.
Yeah.
Right. He's overcome his background, which was a single parent home. Didn't know his father. Wasn't raised by his father, only by his mother. Rose out of poverty. Became, arguably one of the two greatest basketball players of all time. Period. He married his high school sweetheart. No rumors of him catting around on her. Mm-hmm. He's an outstanding father by all accounts. Nobody's ever argued that. As far as that's concerned. Maybe a little bit with Bronny. People have said some off-color stuff, and we'll get to that, right? Mm-hmm. Man starts schools. He's a community activist. He's an activist nationally, globally, and he's represented the United States honorably on Team USA for a couple decades now. Okay.
And he didn't disrespect people like Sean Kemp did dunking on someone from Elkhart, Indiana. We love you, Sean, but bro.
Yeah, well, but if you go back and look, here's the thing. Because of the way he approaches the game, he's a team player first, passer first. We overlook the stuff that he has disrespect. Remember, when he jumped over your boy Jason Terry, that was disrespectful. When he actually jumped over John Lucas Jr. in a game, like, you're too short, I'm just literally going to jump over you. That was disrespectful. So Bron has that in him. He's just not a mean person. Okay, all right. So that's where we start. The other piece is that he's not like us. He is a billionaire, and money makes you weird a little bit. It just does. You know Warren Buffett. The man, nice man, down to earth, humble, but his world, it will never be like ours because he can mitigate 90% of his problems with money.
Yeah,
it's just a fact. Bron can do the same thing. Mm-hmm. So when he gets into a rare air where he can't mitigate something with money, he becomes calcitrant. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. He's like, I got to do something. So this is where we get to Stephen A. Smith. Stephen A. Smith absolutely was out of line with what he said. Mm-hmm. I don't care how he tries to spin it from here. It was a punk move for Stephen A. Smith to attack LeBron, specifically LeBron's fatherhood.
Yeah.
Then you talk about the man flopping. You could talk about he hasn't won this. He hasn't been clutched, yada, 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 blah, blah, blah. That's all fair game. You can even talk about Bronny. Mm-hmm. Bronny's not this, Bronny's not that, blah, 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 blah. But when you say, as a father, I'm begging you to stop it. This man does not belong in the NBA. This boy does not belong in the NBA. As a father, you should not allow this to happen again. You're making yourself look bad. You're making us look bad. That, if I had heard that and I saw Stephen A. Smith, the fact that LeBron is a nice guy is the why they ended up the way they did. Had he seen me, I'd have slapped the taste out of his mouth. You get 3 strikes. I only got 1.
Man,
so
you saw what happened to Will Smith? This is the thing. You saw
Bruh.
what happened to Will Smith. And
Yeah.
then I turn around and I see Stephen A trying to work out hitting the punching bag. Like, dude,
Yeah, but LeBron posted that. LeBron posted that and said, "Dude, you're not gonna do it." Because what happened was, Stephen A. did the pump thing. He's like, "Oh, had I known that he was approaching me like that, it'd have been a different story." But it was happening so fast. And LeBron was like, "Really, bro? Look, this is you." And he posted the video of Stephen A. Punch, punch. Like, this is 6'8", 265 standing in front of you, telling you to shut your mouth and keep my name out your mouth and keep my family's name out your mouth. That's where it's a long-winded way, but the bottom line for me is they were both wrong. Stephen A. Smith, you should never attack another man's fatherhood on air unless you're
and
ready to
being a
fight.
father and being a father yourself.
Yeah, but is he really known for being a good father? That's the other thing.
Yeah.
You're going to attack this man who's known as being an outstanding father, bruh. You're not even raising your own kids, right? So you don't put yourself out on Front Street for your stuff to say. Then you want to act tough after the fact,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so after it was after the fact that you talking all of this, and then he did some other punk stuff. He talked about LeBron not going to Kobe's funeral,
Oh,
like you don't
he had to retract that though because he was at Kobe's funeral.
he was at Kobe's funeral. But I'm saying the fact that he would even bring it up, right or wrong, lie or truth, it shows that Stephen A. Smith was desperate at that point to save his manhood because he got punked in front of all of America.
Mm-hmm.
LeBron told him sit down and shut up, and Stephen A. Smith had nothing to say at the moment.
But I think Stephen A. instigated that. First of all, I'm not going to go to a man's game that I just did that to without talking to him first to get it resolved.
Fair.
I mean, that's just me. Hey.
Well, to be fair to Stephen A., I believe him when he said that he did reach out privately to LeBron. But LeBron didn't take his calls, his texts, nothing like that. His people said, "Nah, don't talk to me." It was LeBron. This is why I say there's blame to go around.
Mm-hmm.
LeBron could have taken care of this in the back. Stephen A., I believe him, was making himself available to say, "Let's sit down and talk away from the cameras," right? LeBron was like, "Nah, dude, when the world can see." But the reason why I believe is because it was in front of the world of Stephen A. Smith embarrassed LeBron. So LeBron's like, "I'm going to embarrass you because you small man, you're not going to stand up to me. You wouldn't be able to stand up to me. You're going to look small in front of me. You're going to look like a punk." And so they both got what they wanted, but it's us in the black community that suffers because you got two black men of influence who are petty about some stuff where they were both running their mouths too much.
Folks, wow. I mean, you can't say much about that because, like I said, right now, I think are the NBA ratings still where they're at, whatever.
Yes, I haven't checked them, but I mean, I believe that they're still at where they are, but they're gonna go up because you know who's in third place right now in the West? The Lakers. It's drama.
Luka and the Lakers, man. Luka, the killer L's. You're in LA. You got LeBron and Luka. I mean, what more can you ask for? Everybody wants to see how they're going to do. And let's just throw Golden State in there with Steph Curry. He don't want to be forgotten.
They're coming on. They're coming on.
Yeah, they're playing their best game. I don't know what's happening to Detroit right now because we're hovering around 6. We in. But
y'all gotta stop fighting. Y'all gotta stop fighting. They're trying to bring the bad boys back, and it's not. Well, the NBA is like, nah, bro. We're gonna suspend half your team.
Well, what they need is Rick Mahorn. bring Rick back and have him coach on the bench there. Rick and Lambier, they still want to be coaches. I say give them two brothers an opportunity. I call Lambier a brother too. Give them two brothers an opportunity to be assistant coaches in the NBA and let them be head coaches because Lambier did win a championship. I think Rick Mahorn was an assistant or something like that. But I'm just
in WNBA. No, he was a head coach.
Oh yeah, but what I'm saying is bring those dudes in the NBA. Why does the NBA hate them so much, man?
Well, again, they're bad for business, right? Todd, let's be clear.
What?
Let's be clear.
Michael Jordan was bad for business. Look what he wasn't.
No, he wasn't. I respect your fandom. But the only people that liked the bad boys were the Detroit people, Todd. Nobody else liked the Pistons. Nobody, Todd. Nobody liked the Pistons except the Pistons. But that's different than you could hate the Bulls if you're a Pistons fan, but people were still selling out to come see Michael Jordan's team, even though Utah people loved him, even though he put him out of the finals twice. Nobody loved the Pistons, Todd. They didn't even love each other.
Well, that may be true, but the whole point was the Pistons made the NBA to watch, man. Like everybody wanted to see the Pistons lose.
Yes.
That's what ratings shot up. That's why the '90s took off. And guess what?
But
your boy, with Mr. Smooth Hair, whatever, Pat Riley, he tried to bring the Bad Boys to New York. That's the closest they ever got to a championship.
Yeah, but here's the deal with that. If you're gonna be a bad boy, you gotta win. Right now, the Pistons aren't winning.
Well, not at that level. Like, listen, the number one team in the East were the Bad Boys. Were the Bad Boys? Were the Bad Boys?
Yeah,
they were the number one team in the East. If you're gonna go that route, you gotta win. If you're not winning, Dennis Rodman makes no sense on your team because all he's gonna do is get fines, get you kicked out, and make people hate you. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Same thing with Isaiah Thomas. Same thing with Bill Laimbeer or Rick Horns. I can't even believe I'm saying these people's names.
Wait. Are you saying we don't have any dogs on the Pistons, Carlin? Are you telling me right now that we don't?
No. I'm saying you have dogs without the talent that the Bad Boys had.
Oh, well, I mean, okay.
Cade Cunningham is good. He's gonna be all-star very, very soon. But that's it, man. That's all y'all got.
Cade Cunningham is a Joe Dumars.
He's a Joe Dumars that can score. Now, I'm gonna give that kid his flowers. But here's the thing: you cannot recreate the Bad Boys and be sixth in the East. It don't work. That's not part of the formula.
Well, we were at the bottom of the barrel, several years ago, and before we end on this, I feel some kind of way because Houston is like number 2, and Cade and my man Green were at the same time. So I think Cade has got to we finally got a coach. I think Houston had a plan all the time, but I don't think we really had a plan in Detroit. I think we got one now. I think we got a great coach. We just got to get the talent. I agree with the Pistons. But, I like Beasley. I like, a lot of the Hardaway. Maybe they're on their last legs or
Hardaway's on his last leg. Listen, they're a playoff team. Yeah. This is not what we're arguing.
They're a playoff team. They're a quality team in the East, right? Are they a player overall at the top in the NBA? No, not yet. And the problem is, if you're going to brand yourself the Bad Boys, you're going to take all of these chances with getting suspended or getting people to come and take cheap shots at you or whatever, you best have about 50 wins under your belt to absorb that. They don't have that.
Well, but let's change it up just a little bit here. First of all, they're not the Bad Boys. I mean, when I saw the foul, that was not a bad boy foul. That was like, okay. Come on, bro. Really, you're gonna get mad at someone touching you going to the hoop? Guys. I think
I'm not even sure a punch was thrown. I was arguing with this guy. He's talking about DiVincenzo from Minnesota. It's like I went back and looked at the tape. Nobody threw a punch.
No. They were just shoving each other. When you and I were
playing, that was just a normal trip off the court. That wasn't even a foul.
I think what it is people just don't like the fact that a team from the bottom is contending and beating you, and they just don't know how to react to it because they're getting better.
I agree.
The Pistons are getting better, and you're like, you're not supposed to be here. And I think it's more mental because they don't really play defense like I would like to.
No,
but nobody does defense.
No, but nobody does in the NBA today. So that's where I give you guys a little bit of credit, is that you're trying to bring defense back, but to call them a defensive juggernaut like the Bad Boys were back then, no, you can't even call anybody in this league playing. I got to argue with my 17-year-old son. He was like, "Dad, the players today are more skilled," and I said, "No, they're not." Now I used to say that they were, but then I stopped and I said, "Well, when you talk about skilled, what are you talking about?" "Oh, they dribble better." Son, they're carrying and traveling at a regular rate. Everybody back, you can't tell me that Isaiah Thomas, Allen Iverson, Tim Hardaway, all these guys couldn't do what Kyrie and these guys do today. The only reason they didn't do it is because it was a travel or because it was a carry. Those guys had just as much skill. Oh, about the shooting, whatever. I was like, back then, coaches did not value the 3-point line like they did.
And you mean to tell me you could hand check? So
Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf. I watched that dude hit like 53s in a row in a pregame warmup without missing.
Mm-hmm. I'm not saying he was good as Steph. Steph to me is the greatest shooter of all time at this point. I don't have a problem with that.
But you can't hand check Steph.
But you can't hand check him.
You can't hand check. When you have someone putting their hand on your hip while you're shooting in the air, and then you had the space, they could step in your space. You had to watch and protect yourself.
I shut the whole argument down with this with my son.
Okay.
I said, son, when you're talking about skill, you're talking about utilizing all your tools. Go look up Boston versus Portland for a playoff spot. And Larry Bird scored 44 points with his left hand. He's right-handed. With his left hand. This is jumpers, layups, free throws, the whole nine. Scored 44 points with his left hand against Clyde Drexler, a top 50 player all time, and Portland, and they won the game. And when the reporter asked him, did you score 44 points with your left hand? He said, yeah, I was saving my right for Magic in the playoffs. Well, that's the most skilled player I've ever seen.
Bird, we respect you, man. You know what I'm saying? I mean, but thank you for Magic making the Pistons who they are. Isaiah's still mad about it. We'll give Michael Jordan his kudos beating a bunch of old dudes, but that's for another time, another discussion there. But Carlin, it's great to have you on there. And like I said, folks, you got to know that when you're out representing, when you're in front of people, people are following you. By beholding you become changed. This is a religious show. We got to talk something religious on it for somebody out there. How you carry yourself, how do you conduct yourself, and we're just hoping that there's a lot of kids watching you. I know you're trying to embrace the city. We know what you're trying to do. But at the same time, too, can you uplift the city and show the good parts of it? There are great parts of Memphis. Let's just focus on that part. We don't have to bring the other stuff up there and stuff like that, because that just perpetuates the image. And we're living in the age now where that's just fueling a certain group of people to say, I'm like this. Carlin, we're not like this. A lot of us are not like this or raised like
Most of us are not like that.
Yeah. And the problem is you got people who want to put that narrative on us. So we hope that you kind of change it up and clean it up. Till next time, we'll see you on Mom and Dad Talks.